a lot of the qualities we bring to those endeavors don't translate so well into our personal space. So sometimes we try too hard. We put a lot of effort into things, which is great, right? It brings us a lot of success. But in relationships, that might look like overfunctioning, people pleasing, self abandonment. We try to manage our partner rather than just, find a partner in the first place who we don't need to manage.
Welcome to Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I'm your host, Dr. Cynthia. With over 30 years in the corporate world as a single mom, cancer survivor, and often the only woman in the C-suite, I understand the balancing act high-achieving women face. Now an executive coach and international speaker, my mission is to embolden every woman in the C-suite or on the rise to claim her agency and challenge the norms holding her back. Tailored for ambitious professional women, this show features candid conversations with powerful business leaders sharing their real stories of success and failure. If you're ready to look up and step up, you're in the right place. Join us and invest in your future today. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. This episode, today's conversation, is for high-achieving women who think about things about how they could have more quality of life and some of the things that they never really want to say out loud. Why does success feel easier in the boardroom than in relationships? I know that I've experienced some portions of that. In fact, I was just joking with our guest today that this episode may be as much for me as it is for the woman listening. My guest today is Mina Yang. She works with accomplished women to build true connection in love and partnership without shrinking, performing, or abandoning who they are. She talks about agency healing and choosing relationships that are intentional as our careers. She is the author of Boss Lady, Boss Love, which you can pick up wherever great books are sold. She is a relationship, subconscious patterns, and emotional healing expert. She blends hypnotherapy, coaching, and somatic awareness. She helps women move from self-protection to secure, authentic connection. And I am super excited to jump into today's conversation. Mina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
So let's dive right in because I think there's a lot for us to learn. And I always like to start with the guest's origin story. What was it? Was there a pivotal moment or what led you to this work?
Yeah, so I spent decades chasing the wrong men, being in relationships that were really unsatisfying, accepting crumbs. I was even in a 11-year marriage that made me feel lonelier than ever.
Mm.
So once that marriage was over and I was really taking stock of where I had gone wrong, I came to a realization that I needed to just intimidate men, that I was showing up as lesser than, I was accepting lesser than, my standards were shockingly low. And so I just changed my tactic. I changed my whole worldview when it came to relationships. And I decided just to show up as myself, be authentic, and not take any more BS from men who were just not cut out to be my partners. And that
Mm.
changed everything. I ended up with a partner who is giving me the best relationship of my life, who meets me where I am, who cares about my needs, all the things that we want in a relationship. But for some reason, high achieving women, have a really hard time with that. And so I decided and I got here because I had relationship coaching, I had hypnotherapy of my own, and so once I got here, I realized I could help other women with this as well, and
Yeah.
so that's what I do now.
I love everything you just said. Talk to me about the thing that holds or stands in the way for most high achieving women. I think you sort of alluded to it in your own life experience, but say more about what is the thing for the woman listening that's going, yep, you just laid out my entire love life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the fact that we are so successful in school, in our careers, a lot of the qualities we bring to those endeavors don't translate so well into our personal space. So sometimes we try too hard. We put a lot of effort into things, which is great, right? It brings us a lot of success. But in relationships, that might look like overfunctioning, people pleasing, self
Mm,
abandonment. We try to manage our partner rather than just, find a partner in the first place who we don't need to manage.
right.
Um, Always giving, 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 and not necessarily receiving. We're not so
Yeah.
good at that part of it. We also tend to often come from childhoods where perhaps love wasn't unconditional, that we had to earn love. And so maybe we chose to achieve so much outside of our homes because we needed that kind of validation, that kind of attention from, you know, other sources, from
Yeah.
school, from teachers. And so we may have childhood wounds that we haven't really resolved, that we haven't healed fully, and that shows up in our relationships as well. So, for example, if we had a father who left when we were young, perhaps we just keep chasing unavailable men because we're trying to rewrite the ending of that story, but it
Right.
doesn't ever really change, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Something you said in your opening struck a chord with me, and I in so many ways I feel again this episode is almost a therapy session for me as much as it is for the woman listening, but because so many things we could unpack here. But your point about I needed to intimidate men, you said. And one of the things that I've found as a successful woman in business and a woman who has had a fair amount of academic background as well, right? Is that my mindset is that I naturally intimidate men. And I've certainly experienced circumstances that make that seem like that's what's happening, right? That men are sort of so I make myself smaller. I sort of want to shrink that and be anything other than intimidating. So to your point, more pleasing, more deferential, etc. to so that because I want to protect their potentially, tender ego. What is your advice to somebody like me who is not showing up authentically because I'm so concerned that I don't want them to feel small?
Yeah, so many women do this, right? Because we got a lot of mixed messages when we are growing up. We should be successful, we should go for it, but at the same time, play small, don't need too much, don't
Right.
intimidate men.
Right.
And so I say we should absolutely intimidate men. And what I mean by that isn't that we should, be confrontational or cold, but rather that when we show up as our full selves, our full amazing selves, the men who are intimidated are the ones who are insecure. They have, some, small egos. They are the ones who are going to be resentful of your success. They're going to try to diminish you. They're going to
Mm,
be competitive, and those are not the men you want. So if they run away because they're intimidated, that's great. That's exactly what you want. On the other hand, a man who is really at your level will be relieved because he wants to stand in his own power, just like you want to stand in your own power. He does not want to be rescuing damsels in distress.
mm.
And so it's a way to attract the one who is right for you and to filter out the ones who are not right for you.
Yeah. I think there's a false narrative I'll speak for myself, that I maybe have internalized or believed that men do want to be able to rescue the damsel in distress. And if I'm, too strong, too independent, too kind of able to manage things for the most part myself, that somehow they won't feel manly enough, that it's my job to sort of help it ensure their manliness, their masculinity.
Yeah, so it is a bit of a balancing act, right? Because I do think that sometimes successful women are a little bit hyper independent as well.
Mm,
And so it's being able to show up vulnerably in front of someone. And that means that sometimes they will have to help you.
yeah.
Uh, Not trying to do everything on your own, right? That as a lot of high achieving women tend to do.
Mhm.
And so it's about having that ability to allow someone to help at the same time that we don't diminish ourselves just to make someone's ego feel okay.
Yeah.
It's a nuanced difference, but I think an important one.
Yeah, I mean, it is nuanced, but the point I believe you're making makes sense to me, which is, I mean, when we think about leadership, we don't do everything ourselves. We delegate, we partner, we collaborate, right? Great leaders aren't completely doing everything independently. Great partnerships are the same. So there's the both things can be true, that you can show up authentically and in your power and not make yourself smaller, but also it's okay to ask for help or to partner on something that is easier done together. Or maybe it isn't your gift and talent and they're just better at it. And so, great, let them do the mowing of the lawn or whatever, the outside chores, whatever the balance is of the distribution of work, and that makes sense to me, and I think in my mind, that felt like an either
Mhm.
or rather than a both and.
Yeah, because really, any true partnership, there are times when, one person is down and they need a lift up and it goes both ways. It's reciprocal. That's what's missing in a lot of relationships that
Mm,
people sometimes, sustain for a long time because they don't know any better. But a true relationship from the beginning is reciprocal. And that
yeah,
means in terms of the interest level too. I mean, a lot of times women try to force a relationship to happen, even if they're not getting that kind of reciprocal interest.
yeah, absolutely. It's so I was married for 20 years to, my children's dad and got married very young, and we were polar opposites, still are. We're very good friends. He's remarried to an amazing woman, but we just really grew apart. I continued to grow and change, and he's still the 25-year-old guy I met, right? And happy about it, and that's okay. That's okay. It's just, um, I don't think we were sort of equally yoked from jump. Um, but I have shared somewhat publicly, without going into too great a detail, that I was in a 5-year relationship that was toxic.
Mhm.
He was very narcissistic. I shrank. Um, Everyone around me could see what was happening and struggled to believe that this, relatively intelligent, successful, professional woman was in this relationship where when you mentioned you're not getting anything back and you're giving everything just to sort of keep them there. I guess the question around that is, you talk about intuition and patterns and past experiences, is when women come to you that have had those kinds of histories, where do you begin to sort of unpack that to move them from having a repeat episode?
Yeah. So a lot of healing happens in our hypnotherapy sessions. And the reason why hypnotherapy is so effective for healing those kinds of wounds is because we're going deep. We're going into the subconscious where a lot of our beliefs reside. And we oftentimes don't even know we have those beliefs, beliefs like men are dangerous, men will hurt me, love is not available.
Mm,
And we bring up those beliefs up to the surface so we can actually recognize that's what's been going on, that they're the what's, controlling the script that is playing in
mhm,
our heads at all times. We also rewrite those stories because stories are what humans kind of live their lives by. And so when you're telling yourself a story that doesn't serve you, that doesn't bring you closer to love, it changes everything if we rewrite the story, if we're very intentional about no, this is the kind of love I want, and this is the love that I am going to have.
Mhm.
And then lastly, because you're in such a suggestible state of mind when you're in hypnosis, we implant new empowering beliefs. So, we might say something like, yes, love is on its way. Love is available to me. I can have all the love I deserve and desire. And that just changes the way you approach the world. And so a man who might not have been attractive to you because he was boring or too nice, and they suddenly
Right.
become, viable candidates for your heart. And so I've seen a lot of healing happen that way. I mean, for some women, it might just be a recognition like, oh, I've been doing this because my father was that way. Like for
Right.
me, that was a huge realization that I was choosing my partners based on the model of my father who is, mentally ill, and so that was a big problem, and so, the different women will need different kinds of support,
Sure.
but I think it's very helpful to kind of look under the hood, that it's not enough
Mhm.
just to, you know, blame the men, blame your past, blame circumstances. Oftentimes, there are things going on in your head that perhaps you're not fully aware of.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest, as you've worked with so many high performing women that are in this situation, is there something thematic that sort of runs across, for the most part, the struggle that they share?
There are different root causes, but some common themes that come up are I'm hyper independent. I don't need men, so I'm just not going
Mm,
to go there. Maybe they've been hurt once or twice. Another is I have to do everything.
mm,
If I'm going to keep the relationship going, I just have to be the one in charge. And, there's a bit of a sort of a martyr
mhm,
stance that women take. Um, Another is that love is, love is not necessarily a happy thing. I've seen women in pretty toxic relationships think that is the best they can have,
mm,
and sometimes they'll just keep it going for years because they don't know what else is possible for them.
yeah. It's interesting for me, I in my logical mind knew that the person had mental illness, right? That borderline personality disorder. There was more under the surface. I knew enough about this person's history um, around abandonment issues and things like that. So I guess the social psychologist side of me offered so much grace around they're showing up this way in these ugly moments because of this sad baggage and background and all of that, and it can't be helped. And so I should just, give them grace um and so on, to the detriment of my own peace, feeling love, feeling, you know, a lot of things. Um and so part of that, the best you can have, or it's just this notion of I don't think it was the best I could have as much as it was this, "I can fix this.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be the person that shows this individual that they are worthy of love, and I'm not leaving them like they felt others did." Right?
Mm.
So I'm not a quitter. So I was gonna stick in there though, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing about high achieving women, right? Like you love like rolling up your sleeves and like,
Yeah.
succeeding. And this was a
Yeah.
project for you. And I think a
It
lot
became a
of us
project.
this. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you can't really change people. They
Right.
have to change on their own. And it's a lovely thing to want a better outcome for them, but they are responsible for their own happiness. You are
Mm,
responsible for yours, and so your job really is to protect your own time and
mm,
energy. And so if someone is not meeting you where you are, if your needs are not being met, obviously yours were not,
right.
then it's time to say, "Yeah, sorry." And in fact, you leaving might have done him more good and
Yeah.
actually making a change than you staying.
The irony in this, he left me, and I was heartbroken, and my sister, who was never a fan, said said This is God saying, "Hold my beer, I've got this." She's
Yeah,
like
sometimes, I mean, it's like with jobs, right? Sometimes you need to get laid off,
Yeah,
that's what you needed to do yourself, and you weren't doing it, so the universe is like,
exactly.
"Okay,
So the
let's."
universe said, "Enough is enough is enough." Yeah, the other thing that resonates with me, and I'm personalizing this for the person listening because, um, partly because we don't know their lived experience or where they're at in this moment, but I feel like in my 58 years, um of love and loss and breakups and divorce and whatnot that I've sort of cycled through some of the things that the women you work with have. And so hopefully some of the portions not only am I learning from, but the person listening going, that's exactly my situation right now can take away is this notion of I don't need men. You what's interesting about that to me is my struggle right now as a single woman is it's not so much I I don't need men. I don't need a man from the perspective of I don't need them financially. I don't need them to, help make certain that things happen around the house, etc. Um, I would desire the companionship, the activity partner, etc. Where I get hung up, and again, it's a mental model thing, and I'd love your thoughts on this. Is there's a part of me that says, but I don't want to have to coordinate calendars with somebody else. Like, if I wanna see my grandchildren, I wanna be able to go see my grandchildren, or if I wanna fly and go see my son and my daughter-in-law and soon to be grandchild, I don't wanna have to be, on somebody else's calendar and timeline. Right now, I have all this flexibility and I can do what I want and so on. And so part of the resistance becomes, I don't even wanna put myself out there because I will have to give up this part of my life. And the logical side of me, of course, occasionally will sit back and go, but maybe there's a man out there that would be completely comfortable with that part of your life. So help me process through that for the person that says, it's not that I don't need them. I maybe don't want them
Yeah.
because I'm worried about this.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally understand, especially because in the past you were in relationships where there was more sacrifice
Right.
than gain, right? And so
Yes.
obviously your mind is thinking that it's going to be more sacrifice if you were to get involved with someone. But the truth
Right.
is, with the right partner, it's more fun to do activities. They are oftentimes willing to, not just willing, but happy to be a part of your larger family. And so they're happy to go visit your grandkids with you.
Yeah.
Um, and really, other people around you help you regulate your nervous system. So when you're with someone who is kind and loving and giving you all the kinds of support and comfort that you want, you actually have more energy, you sleep better, you're
Mm,
healthier. I mean, there are a lot of, checks on the plus side if he's the right person. I mean, if he's the
right.
wrong person, then, it's totally the opposite scenario. So, I think, it's too easy to let your past experiences be the sort of the guide to where you're going next, but I think if you can open your mind to the possibility that there is a better love and that
Mm,
that better love will actually improve everything and that you won't really have to sacrifice, I
yeah.
think maybe, you might be able to entertain a new relationship more easily.
Yes. I think that's profound because it makes me think even to um, a dating relationship post the 5-year relationship. So a dating relationship where the sacrifice, a lovely, lovely person, but the sacrifice was um how much control of calendar and time and needed to be on the other person's terms, right? So that's kind of a fresh experience of, well, I don't wanna have to be where, they're controlling so much of my time and my focus and need so much of me that there's not enough left for other parts of my time, which again, when you say it out loud it doesn't sound very logical because you're thinking, okay, well, that was a situation and a
Mhm.
person in a relationship. But saying it out loud, helps to validate your point, which is we allow so much of our history to inform what we project our future will look like instead of suggesting that with the right person, both things can be true. You can have a life you want, and maybe it will evolve with the right person. It will look different, but it doesn't mean that you're letting go of everything and you're sacrificing everything to make room for love and companionship. And I think that's profound and
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. So, I was listening to a neuroscientist on a podcast was, and this is exactly what she was talking about, that, our brain is constantly trying to predict the immediate future
Mm,
based on things we've experienced in the past and based on whatever sensory stimuli we're receiving at that moment. And I think that's absolutely it. We tend to globalize based on our limited experience. So if we had, a few bad relationships, we'll say all relationships suck. If
right.
we've known men who are selfish or immature, we'll say all men are selfish and immature because we're trying to protect ourselves.
Hmm.
That's the job of our brain. So we have to kind of override our brain at
Yeah.
times because safety can also mean just closing yourself off. And I think for most people, that's not really what they want ultimately. They want
Yeah.
connection, we're wired to be connected to others. And especially in this day and age when we're all on our phones and, we're meeting virtually all the time, that primary connection is more important than ever.
Mm,
So I think, ultimately, we don't just want to be in our little, bubble by ourselves. And in order to break out of that bubble, we do have to take a few risks and perhaps not believe all the stories our brain is telling us.
yeah. Part of what that says to me too is if if the person listening, and myself, I would put myself in this category, has been of the mindset that I'm really good. I'm really good on my own. I'm happy. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Is to get underneath that a little bit more as to why do you feel that way? What is comforting about you're good on your own? Um And is it really that you don't want the companionship, et cetera, or is it really that you don't want y you have a false narrative that you somebody else will then be controlling your destiny, your future, your calendar, whatever that is? Because my mom will often say to me, because I live alone and all the things, and I'm an empty nester, and she'll say, "I just worry that you're lonely." And I'm like, "Mom, I am so good. Like, I'm living my best life." And she says, "Okay, I mean, as long as you're happy, I'm good, but I need to hear that." And it was so funny. It's like, "Why is she worrying? I'm really good on my own." But to your point, having somebody to share life with, an activity partner, somebody that you can, um, enjoy life with. I mean, I do think that we were created to be in relationship, whatever that looks like for you, right? Um, and so there is something sort of interesting about sort of digging your heels into this idea that somehow you're the anomaly that 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 doesn't need that relational, connection.
Yeah, so I think it's a wonderful thing that women can stand on her 2 feet
Mhm.
and that, you do have a beautiful life, Cynthia. I can just see behind you a beautiful house. You've got your kids, you've got your family nearby. But I do think it can be a lot better than that, and I think that, you have to kind of ask yourself, "Am I saying I'm good because this is really the best it can be, or am I trying to protect myself because I've been hurt in the past?" And maybe not allowing the possibility that there might be a better life. And the thing is when we approach dating in our midlife, it looks a lot different than it did, a decade or 2 ago.
Goodness,
That's
yes.
the point. You're coming from a place of strength, right? Like, you already have a life that you love, and so you're looking for someone to enhance that. Not for, not to play games, not to be thrown crumbs, like, you don't need any of that. You're not looking for potential anymore, you're looking for someone who is finished, mature, who's willing to meet you where you are. It's a very different kind of endeavor.
Absolutely. Well, and we have all different ages of individuals that listen. And so I think that there's probably a number of women similarly situated. I also have read many times, and I know you'll agree, but for the woman who's not yet married, if they wish to if they wish to get married, um, it's one of the most important professional decisions you'll make, right?
Yeah,
Who you marry, who you
yeah,
decide to spend your life with is one of the most critical professional decisions that you'll make.
absolutely. Yeah, and financial too. I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
it is a huge decision. Yeah, it's funny because I often get asked, like, where are like the good relationships? Like, where are the couples who are healthy, so that we can kind of model ourselves on them. And I
Yeah.
guess because I'm on LinkedIn talking about love all the time, the algorithm feeds me all the posts of people who are celebrating their partners. Like, if
Oh.
my startup would not have been successful if it weren't for my wife, or, my husband, like, supported me through all the ups and downs of my career. There are a lot of great couples out there who are really making each other's dreams possible because
Mhm.
they're there for each other. I mean, it's just with anything worthwhile in life, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time, and there's nothing like having a cheering section at home.
Yeah.
There's also nothing like someone who's dragging you down too. That's why
Right.
your choice of partner is so important. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely goes both ways, yeah. Where does a woman start? So, if a woman is seeking a healthy companion, you mentioned it's so much different in this day and age. So many people are online, etcetera. I mean, maybe this goes beyond where you normally advise, but curiosity, asking for a friend. Where does somebody begin to find those kinds of relationships?
Yeah, so I actually go into a lot of detail about this in my book.
Oh,
So I talk, the reader through the whole process of getting on a dating app, the red flags and the green flags, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, dating apps obviously are kind of the easy place to go just because that's where singles are. A lot of people are kind of frustrated and done with apps. So there are also a lot of in-person things if you seek them out. So, volunteering is one great way to meet someone. You're also going to be meeting someone with heart, which is
mhm,
nice. Um, you can also take a class, maybe, take up French, or, take up wine tasting. There are lots of different ways to be in a space where there are other men, or there are men, or even women that you can
right,
befriend and be opened up to a whole new world of, different people. So you just have to be intentional about it. I'd say, just maybe set aside a few hours every week where you commit to doing something that moves you forward in your dating life. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be something onerous. You don't have to like devote your entire weekend, but just a few hours, and just be strategic. Like, think about what your values are, what your, goals are, what activities you enjoy, and then design a strategy around those.
I love that. Intentionality is a word I use all the time. I am convinced that everything in life that is worth doing requires intentionality, and relationships being, at the top of that list. You have to be intentional in the relationship. And to your point, if that's something that you seek, is to be intentional in that space. Boss Lady, Boss Love, again, is the name of Mina's book. And we'll have all of that in the notes as well. When you find couples that are sort of the right relationships, you mentioned that the algorithm is starting to put these people on your radar. I don't know if there's science or evidence behind this, so I'll ask the question. Do you Is there any nuance around that the more alike versus the more opposite couples are having a greater propensity for success?
Yeah, so maybe not like or unlike, but rather compatible or incompatible.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And so
Right.
that's something that you want to be looking out for from the start. Like, I think a lot of people overemphasize chemistry. And, really attraction can grow as you get to know someone and you form a stronger and stronger connection. But compatibility, you can't really
Mhm.
make happen. And so, whether you have compatible spiritual beliefs, whether you have compatible lifestyles, I mean, you don't have to be the exact same,
Right.
but it has to work. And again, like if you are like, over 35 and you have kind of, your personality fully formed, you can't expect to meet someone just because they are really hot or they're really impressive. You can't expect them to change their personality so that they're
Yes.
compatible with you. That's
Yeah.
just, a waste of time. So instead, find somebody who's compatible with you from the start.
Mhm. So important, and I think that's one of the challenges that I feel about dating apps is it leads with chemistry or physical attraction, right? This whole swiping. I literally, I don't know, about a month ago, in a weak moment, I guess, I popped onto the Facebook, a dating site. I was curious, and I popped onto it to sort of check it out, and I found myself, swiping like, "Oh, he's pretty cute," or "He's this," or "He's that," and then, there was a point at which going, "This feels so superficial," because you know what? They're doing the same thing. They're like, "Oh, she's too old, she's too this, she's too that," right? Or,
Yeah.
"I like this," or "I like that." Um so, how do you get past that initial and get past the or through that, I guess, in terms of that initial phase of let's get beyond the, "Yes, you're my physical type." How many people are we swiping past that might be amazing? That's part of what I wonder. Like, that might be an amazing human being that would be so compatible, but I swiped past them because I didn't like their beard, or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like too many people think about their physical type first
Yeah.
and about other things later. For example, so many women will say, "I will not date anyone under 6 feet tall." And that's what,
Mm.
like 7% of the population. So you
Right.
are, not considering a majority of men.
Right,
and
right.
and then also like everyone's fighting for the same 7% of the pie, which, is not a great thing either. So I would say because dating apps provide such a wealth of options, you have to be super discerning. And in order to be discerning, you have to have standards and the right standards, not things like appearances. Because the other thing is that a lot of men take really horrible pictures. So
Right.
you can't just judge by their photo on their, profiles. And if they have amazing pictures, they're probably scammers. So,
Right.
like take their photos with a huge grain of salt
Right.
and then have standards like, do they sound like they actually put some time into creating this profile? Like, are they actually looking for a real relationship or are they just throwing spaghetti at the wall? They just want to fling for the weekend. See, does their profile actually show that they have, a thinking brain?
Right.
you know?
Right.
Yeah. What are they saying they're looking for in a relationship? Where are they on the political spectrum? I mean, there are lots of
Yeah.
questions you can
Yeah.
ask yourself depending on what's important for you. What's important for one woman is not the same as for another. So you just want to get really clear on that. And it's like what you were saying before, intention is so important. So here, being intentional about the kind of man you want is really important. You don't want to be just swiping based on appearance.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you can get a tall guy, but how is a tall guy going to actually help you have a good relationship? Like my partner is taller than me, so he's able to get things out of the upper cabinets that I can't without a stool. That's the only benefit his
Right.
height brings to a relationship.
That's funny. That is funny. I love this notion of think first about your standards and your non-negotiables. So if religion, smoking, political affiliation, etc. are important. If they want to have kids, don't want to have kids, don't have kids, things of that nature. Um, and identify those things and document those things first and look for those things beyond the physical attributes, I think is really profound. I will say one of my deal breakers is if their cover picture, they don't have a shirt on. I'm like, I'm sorry. I was like, "Put a shirt on."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, or if in the description, one of the things that they feel necessary to put in is that how sex is important to them in their
Yes.
profile picture. That's another swipe left, whichever way is not the way you went. So some of those things, it's like, okay, of a priority, at least at this point in my life, that's kind of a deal breaker for me. Because of the space you work in, I wanna hit on the topic, before we run out of time, around sort of meditation, manifestation, law of attraction. Talk about how that shows up in your work and where you put that in terms of the priority of how women like myself and those listening should consider.
Well, I think meditation and any mindfulness practice is really great for just regulating your own emotions. And
Mm,
that's so important because if you're taking every rejection as like some kind of a judgment on your worth, you're going to have a really tough time out there, you know? So you really want to be able to regulate your emotions and understand that, every no is actually bringing you closer to the yes. It's not a judgment about who you are. I think that manifestation is really important. I think that we are manifesting every moment of the day, really. So if you're telling yourself all day long, men suck and I don't need them, that's the life you're going to get, right? But if you are open to love and if you are thinking to yourself, yeah, my life would be really nice with love, it's going to happen because you're going to then take the action that need to get you there, and you're just going to be cognizant of the opportunities that perhaps you weren't really open to seeing before. So I think all of those things are really really important, and I do think the universe, sometimes plays funny tricks on us, and so when it feels that you're finally ready, I think it does. Things tend to happen.
yeah. My mom always says, when you're not open to it, you're not looking up.
Hmm.
When
Yeah.
so you're not gonna see the person right in front of you or next to you on the
Yeah.
plane or, wherever it might be, because when you're not open to it, you're not putting any kind of vibe, energy, etcetera, and so you're not gonna be approached, and you're not
Yeah.
even gonna recognize that, that the opportunity was there, and so I do believe that, when you're ready and you're open, I think your physical way you show up, that openness, that awareness definitely opens up. Well, as we begin to come to a close, again, for the person listening, I hope this was as helpful to you as it has been to me. I feel like I got a free consult and therapy session out of the podcast today, and I've got some work to do, which I've been taking copious notes. I love to end each of our episodes with one thing that you would invite the woman listening to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing.
All right. So I would say start being really mindful of how your body's reacting, what you're feeling. So if you're on a date with someone and you're feeling uncomfortable, or maybe you've started to see someone and they're making you feel anxious, like you don't know what to expect, you feel like you're on a roller coaster ride, pay attention to that. That's often giving you signals. Sometimes our minds are a little slower to react than our bodies. So really pay attention to what your body is telling you. In terms of stop doing, stop trying to change other people, stop trying to earn love, stop ignoring the signals that something is not right. And then continue doing is continue believing that love is available for you. Continue believing in love, that love is worthwhile. I mean, there's a reason why there's so much art and poetry about love because it's really one of the best things there is in life when it's right.
Yeah.
So, I would say just hold on to that. Believe in it.
Yeah. So many elements of wisdom. I love the idea of listening to your body. I really want to put another highlight on this notion of show up. Don't be worried about intimidating a man. Show up as your full self, sit in your strength because otherwise you're not going to end up with someone that you can live in your strength and in your power. You're going to forever have to shrink to be able to make sure that their ego isn't damaged and feel hurt. And that is a powerful, powerful reminder for the type of women that are listening today who are ambitious and hardworking and driven and have, big aspirations is you don't have to shrink to find love. It does not disqualify you because of your
Mhm.
strength and your fullness and your power. Find that perfect match, or perhaps not perfect. Find that compatible match that allows
Mhm.
you to be the best version of you. Um, and then together you become something beautiful and strong in that love. So thank you for that. Thank you for all that you've shared, Mina. It was such a blessing to have you on the show. I know that many, many people are going to do some deep introspection after listening to today's episode. I know that I will. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. It was really fun.
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for giving a moment of the privilege of your time. Know that you are perfect just the way you are. Don't shrink. Don't make yourself small. Stand in your power. And until next time, you've got this. Congratulations on choosing to invest in yourself. I know your time is precious. Thank you for spending it here with me. I believe in helping you look up, step forward, and fully realizing your potential. If today's conversation resonated, I'd be so grateful if you'd rate and comment on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you know someone who would benefit, please share this episode with them. Let's stay connected. Visit me at dr-cynthia.com, and you can find me on all the socials at Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. Until next time, remember, boldly start working on your future today.